This is Wayne again, and we are starting a series on traditions versus truth. Now, we mentioned earlier one tradition that was established, has been handed down from generation to generation, was that we're still sinners, even as Christians. And we delve into that and prove that that's not really what Paul described. You'll have to go back and look at that video and listen to it. But we're not going to really name a whole lot of traditions, but we're just going to try to compare and contrast the difference between the traditions and truth and their source. And we're going to go here and read in Mark 7. And we're going to read the first 10 verses in Mark 7 as our main text. The Pharisees and some of the teachers of the law who had come from Jerusalem gathered around Jesus and saw some of his disciples eating food with hands that were unclean, that is, unwashed. The Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they give their hands a ceremonial washing, holding on to the traditions of elders. They would wash their hands and they would believe that that would cleanse them from defilement. But that's not really the law. That was their interpretations that have been handed down from generation to generation. And when they come to the marketplace, they do not eat unless they wash. And they observe many other traditions, such as washing of cups, pitchers, and kettles. So the Pharisees and the teachers of the law asked Jesus, "Why don't your disciples live according to the traditions of the elders instead of eating their food with unclean hands?" Now notice their traditions of elders or their traditions of man. That's different than truth. He replied in verse 6, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites, as it is written, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are but rules taught by man. You have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to the traditions of men. And he said to them, you have a fine way of setting aside the commands of God in order to observe your own traditions. So that verse right there makes a very distinct distinction between the commands of God and their traditions. But verse 9, and he said to them, you have a fine way of setting aside the commands of God in order to observe your own traditions. For Moses said, honor your father and mother, and anyone who curses his father and mother must be put to death. And we'll deal with that verse here at another time. But here, we're just going to break down these verses here a little bit here. Verse 3, holding on to the traditions of the elders, the words and beliefs of man. So you know, they're the traditions of elders. They're man-made, man-authored, man-conceived. In verse 4, and they observe many other traditions. In verse 5, the Pharisees asked, why don't your disciples live according to the traditions of the elders? The source is man on these traditions. Jesus called them hypocrites and stated that these people honored them with their lips, but their heart was far from God. Their teachings, verse 7, their teachings were but rules taught by men. The origin and authorship of their teachings has been attributed to men. When man is the basis of doctrine, there is an absence of power as seen in the ministry of the Pharisees. In the ministry of the Pharisees, I've never found anywhere in the Gospels or in the book of Acts or any other place where the Pharisees actually helped anybody or saved anybody or or proclaimed the good news or brought salvation. Basically, it was a form of godliness, but no power. And that's what occurs when the traditions of men are taught in the church. There's a form of godliness, but there's no power. There is no power or anointing in the traditions of men. The power and anointing is in truth, the teachings of Jesus. In verse 8, you have let go of the commands of God. That means that at one time they possessed the commands of God, but they chose to go another way. In verse 8, they are holding on to the traditions of men. That was their choice. They made that choice. It was an act of their will that they made that choice. Holding on to means to maintain by handing down from generation to generation to retain. And that's what's been going on in the denominational realm today. These same traditions are being held down, are being brought down or taught down or from generation to generation, and one generation picks it up, the next one picks it up, and it just spiral down. Now the traditions over truth pose a greater value than traditions pose a greater threat, actually no value when compared to truth. The source is not God, but the source is man, and it's based on the logic or the mental realm. This is a concept that the church today must be awakened to understand that the source of man's tradition is man and not God. Thank you, Will. God bless you. I pray that these words will be a blessing, and we will continue this next time.